Connecticut housing market for 2022 and 2023. I am here to do a market review update for you. It was an interesting year in 2022. Home sales were down almost 19%, but prices up 6%. That's kind of confusing to buyers and sellers. I am going to show you the housing market report, go over the graphs with you, and talk to you a bit about my predictions for what I see for 2023. But first, I want to talk to buyers and sellers about some generic overall thoughts that you should be having and give you some recommendations as you navigate buying or selling in the winter and spring of 2023. Okay, let's start with home buyers. I want to talk to you all first, and I want to remind you that for 2.5 years you were dying to be in a situation where you could buy a home without competing with 10 people, where you didn't have to pay over asking, where you didn't have to have so much competition. Folks, it finally arrived. That opportunity arrived last summer. It was here all fall. Fall, I've said for years, more than a decade I have said, the best time of year to buy a home is in the fall. The problem is very few buyers listen to me, and you all end up coming out after the new year, and that is exactly what happened this year. And in fact, this year, you didn't even wait till after the new year. It was like everything changed the day after Christmas. All of you that were in somewhat hiding and hibernation since about September came out in droves. And we are back to seeing multiple offer situations, competition on listings, properties selling quickly, properties selling over asking price. Is it to the extent it was a year ago or 2 years ago? No, it's not. So you still should be happy, but I will tell you, as I always do, I'm very blunt, you did miss out on a hell of an opportunity in the fall. However, couple things have improved since the fall, so in the end, I don't think it matters that you waited till now. Number one, interest rates. Mortgage interest rates peaked at about 7% in late September, early October. They are down to about 6%. Some of our lenders are quoting mid-5s and high 5s for high credit-worthy borrowers. That's one good thing. The other thing that has happened is prices did settle back down a bit throughout the fall, as many of you buyers were in hibernation. Now, many of you buyers are also sellers, and I'm going to talk to you about that as well. But prices did settle down a bit from their peak, which was May and June of 2022. So the good news now is prices are lower now than they were 6 months ago, and interest rates are lower. So now you are in a good time to buy. Is it as good as it was in the fall? No. So if you are wondering why, I shouldn't say no. I should take that back a little bit. Depends how you look at it. Interest rates are better. New homes are starting to come on the market, so there's more to choose from. But it is a bit more competitive than it was 2, 3, 4, 5 months ago. That's what I mean when I say no. So let me take that back a little bit and just to clarify it. Folks, there's never a perfect exact time. When you are qualified to buy and you are ready to buy, you should go out and buy a home, and don't hem and haw if you run into a competitive situation. If you want something and someone else wants it, that's life. That happens. If you do happen to find a home that didn't sell through the fall that's still for sale, that doesn't mean something is wrong with that house. That might be a good deal. Go after it, okay? But you have to accept the fact, home buyers, that it is a bit more competitive than it was over the last 3 or 4 months. So in one hand, yes, it's a better time to buy than it was 3 or 4 months ago because of rates and because prices have settled a bit. But on the other hand, you are going to face more competition, and it is going to be like this for the next 5 to 6 months. It's the way it goes every single year. From January to July, there's a lot of competition, and then the competition backs off in the fall months. Home sellers, I have to have a word with you, and then I promise I'm going to go into all this data. You ruled the roost for 2 years, 2.5 years, from about May 2020 till about May 2022. When rates ended up going up a point in 17 days, the whole game changed. You are still in a very good position. Your home is still worth a lot more than it was 2 years ago. In a lot of cases, it's worth more than it was a year ago. Maybe not all, but in a lot. And it's worth dramatically more than it was 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. The further you go back, the more it is. And I'm going to show you that in the graphs that I'm going to go over in the housing market report. So be happy, be grateful, and don't be angry at a buyer or at your realtor because you missed the peak of May and June 2022 when home prices peaked for this cycle. In a couple of years, we'll pass that amount. But right now, most homes are not worth what they were then. They're worth a bit less. And if you recognize that up front, you price correctly up front. You get your price so that it's not just competitive in the market, but it's eye-catching to a buyer. And what I mean by that is if everything in your neighborhood is listed for, and I'm making up numbers, but listed between $800,000 and $900,000, price your home at $789,000, price your home at $799,000, and watch how many people you attract. The more people you attract, the more home buyers you attract, the more demand you will create. The more demand you create, the more your home will sell for. Okay? Pricing higher doesn't mean selling your home for more. The more competitively you price, the better off you will be. Okay, so I wanted to point these things out to home sellers because you have to recognize that the market has changed. 1 year ago right now, interest rates were 3.7%. Today, yes, they've improved, but they're still about 6%, 5.75 in that vicinity, okay? That means it costs a buyer a lot more to buy a home. And prices of other things are higher as well, and you have to accept that and you have to be realistic. All right, buyers and sellers, I talked in my normal blunt fashion. Now we're going to go into the data, and some of the things that I mentioned, I will mention again as I'm showing you the graphs, as I'm showing you the numbers, as I'm showing you the charts. Let's take a look. All right, as promised, it's time to go over the numbers. I'm going to show you the charts, the graphs, the actual numbers for 2022. Then I'm going to talk to you about how I see it correlating to 2023, and we'll talk a little bit about my predictions. But first, let's jump into 22. Let's see what happened, because you never know where you're going until you know what happened. So let's jump in here to the actual Connecticut housing report that our marketing team did a phenomenal job on. Sales were down 18%, 18.8%. If I click on this, you can just see a snapshot right here with all the answers. Now, when you hear that, make sure you are distinguishing between the difference between home sales and home prices. The amount of homes that sold was down 18.8%, but prices were up 5.9%, call it 6. So to make the numbers even, sales down 19%, prices up 6% to $479,000. That is the highest average that we've ever seen in the state of Connecticut, and that's exciting if you're a homeowner. That's a big deal. Now, if we look here, homes listed, also down 18%. That's the amount of homes being put up for sale. That is something that we saw across the country. We saw it big time in Massachusetts. In fact, in Massachusetts, in New Hampshire, and here in Connecticut, less homes listed for sale than in any year back to 2000. I'm going to show you that in a couple of minutes. But let's stick with home sales right now. Take a look at this, 43,000. Now, this is something I want to point out that makes me a little bit more optimistic with Connecticut than Massachusetts, than its neighbors in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Massachusetts and New Hampshire home sales were down to their lowest levels since either 2012 or 2014. It was 8 to 10 years. In Connecticut, home sales were really only down to their lowest levels since 19. That means it held up pretty darn strong, okay, going down 20%, and that's a pretty good sign for the activity in the state of Connecticut. Buyers are out there. Home prices by month. Now, take a look here. And what we're looking at here, I got to adjust that to say home prices by year. But if you look at this, home prices by year, look at 19, 334,000, 20, 404,000, 21, 452,000, 22, 479,000. So to all those people that said home prices were going to fall out after COVID, take a look here. You were wrong. Okay, you were wrong. Prices are holding strong at 479,000, and that's the highest price that we've ever seen in the state of Connecticut. Now look at inventory of homes for sale. What we do here is we take a look at the amount of homes for sale on December 31st, back 4 years. 2019, there were 15,000 homes for sale. We ended 22 with 5,500. That's nearly a third. This, folks, is why I am going against whoever says prices are going to fall out. It's not going to happen. This is not a 2008 scenario. In 2008, when we rounded the corner into the first of the year, 2006, 2007, folks, there was like 40,000, 30,000 homes for sale. Right now, we have 5,500, or now, since then, a month later, we have maybe 7,000 homes for sale in the state of Connecticut. No comparison to what happened in 08. So buyers shouldn't be fretting and be concerned about that happening. Talked about homes listed. Now we're looking at annual number of homes listed. We talked about that, 48,000, less than in a few years. Okay. Homes pending, less than in a few years. Now let's take a look at my predictions for 2023. Okay, my predictions, if you'd like to see them directly on your own, log on to anthonyspredictions.com and you will come across this. I'm not going to go through every detail, but I want to touch on a couple of specific Connecticut-related items. Right here. The amount of homes listed for sale in Connecticut in 2022, lower than any year since 2000. That is consistent with what we're seeing in Massachusetts, consistent with what we saw in New Hampshire, and really what we're seeing across the country. It's at least 10 years, up to 25 years, the least amount of homes listed. Why is that? I talked about that earlier, but that is because people don't want to give up their interest rates and they don't know where to go, okay? When you work with the right realtor, if you're working with our realtors at Lamacchia Realty, by the way, we just opened in Southington, Connecticut, so we're right in the heart of Connecticut, and we've been serving northern Connecticut, in the northern fringe, southern fringe of Massachusetts, northern fringe of Connecticut for 2-3 years now. Our realtors will help you find homes before they are listed and get you unique special advantages that you will likely have a hard time finding yourself. Okay, so please keep our Lamacchia Realty realtors in mind when you are searching for a home. Now we can take a quick look at interest rates. Look here, this goes till the end of the year. Last year, a month ago, folks, we're even better than we were. As I mentioned in the video earlier, we're hovering around 6%, okay? So I feel good about what is happening in the market. And if I read right here, this statement in my predictions, a year from now, when we measure the year of 2023 as a whole, I believe that prices will land somewhere between down 3% for 23 or up 3%, somewhat of a 6% swing. That is nothing to be scared of if you are a home buyer. Do not hear that and say, oh my God, but if I buy now, my house might be worth 3% less in a year. That's what Anthony said. That's right, it's possible. We've got to see what happens in the second part of the year. Prices are certainly not going to dip in the next 6 months. There's a lot of activity out there since the first of the year. Buyers are back to making offers in droves. We're back to multiple offer situations, but we'll see what happens in the second part of the year. That's also dependent upon interest rates, okay? But folks, I don't care that my house is worth a little bit less than it was last May and June. I don't care. That's good. In fact, I hope prices go down a little bit more because that will create more affordability. It'll make homes more affordable to buyers. And if they do go down a bit, in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, they start going up again. I just talked to you about how the new average sale price in Connecticut for 2022 is, what did I say, $479,000. Folks, that's higher than it's ever been. And in 10 years, I'll be sitting here telling you that it's $800,000 or $900,000. Okay? So if you're a buyer, be realistic. Be happy that there's not quite as much demand as there were a year and 2 years ago. If you're a seller, be realistic. Understand that you didn't hit the peak, but you're still in a very good position and home prices are holding up very well. But don't overplay your hand, reach too high, and you won't be able to sell. And remember, if you're buying or selling, you need to get in touch with our Lamacchia Realty realtors that are working in the northern part of Connecticut, okay? And also where we opened in Southington, Connecticut. We have realtors all over the place that can serve you. And if we can't serve you directly in our company, we will get you to the right company and realtor that can. We're not serving every corner of Connecticut just yet, but we're serving a large swath of it, and we're here to help you. Thank you all. Good luck. Happy home buying and happy home selling.